Welcome to The Edge by MGR with your host, David Gill.
Hey everybody, welcome to The Edge podcast by MGR. Your host, David Gill here. I hope everybody's having a fantastic week. As always, I certainly am. We've got a little mixed bag of things to discuss today, and then I wanted to finish off with kind of where the state of social media in general is. And I want to come from it more on the marketing side, because obviously this is a business podcast, so we look at social media more from the side of how we can use it to grow businesses. But I wanted to talk about that at the end because things are very weird and strange right now and kind of in a limbo state, and I'm not sure where we're headed. But anyways, I'll get into that. Before, I wanted to go through some news headlines, discuss what happened this week quickly, and kind of give my thoughts. So anyways, let's get right into it.
You ain't got no money, I ain't got no time. All these faces looking funny when I'm driving by.
The first thing I wanted to discuss was what Snapchat is doing. So they had their, I think it was a summit, some developer summit this past week, and they are really pushing hard to improve their AR tech, their augmented reality technology. They're almost pivoting somewhat into being an AR platform, because they really, they were the originals as far as lenses and filters for all these apps, and now they're very much going all in on it again. And it seems like they want to almost become an AR platform where companies and developers can kind of come and use their development kit, what they call the Snap Kit, to create experiences and third-party integrations within Snapchat. I know Netflix has been doing this, and other companies as well. Snapchat really, they might have an opportunity here. Their technology is actually very good. They have a lot of very advanced AR tech, and they're kind of making this bet that we are going to be moving more and more towards an AR world, which I do agree with. Now, whether that AR world will be phone-based or, some type of glasses type thing based, we will see. But I think the glasses part is still much further down the road. So at the moment, it looks like they are trying to dominate the phone-based AR world. And, I'll give credit to Snapchat because they've been having a rough couple of years, but they have not stopped innovating. They keep pushing, they keep coming with lots of new ideas. The problem is that they get copied, and then people just use those new ideas, those new inventions that Snapchat creates, but then they use them on Instagram or whatever other platform that copies them. So we'll see if they are able to become almost more of a AR app that mixes in social media and messaging more so than just another social app, because on the social side they don't really have anything unique anymore, because obviously stories, everybody has stories now. YouTube even has stories now. I don't know if you guys have seen that. So we'll see if this is enough to get to differentiate themselves, right? To bring it back new users, to get back to growth again. They were one of the fastest growing social apps at one point, and now their growth is pretty much completely stalled. They are a public company, so there is a lot of pressure for them to continue to grow and continue to make money and continue to bring in new opportunities, especially with these third-party integrations, like I said, with Netflix, etc. Those companies can come in and pay for the platform to get in front of people and get people to use their AR experiences. So we'll see if that works. Again, I actually like it. I think a lot of the stuff they're making is quite impressive. The question is just, will it spur growth? Will it start bringing new users again? And that's something that I'm not 100% sure that it will. Okay, let's talk about LinkedIn for a minute here. There's not too much to say. I've been talking about them over the past few weeks, or actually it was probably over the past few months, about how they've been upgrading their ad platform quite a bit. They added in, over a month ago, new interest-based targeting, which I thought was a very big deal because obviously before it was only targeting, or mostly targeting, based on people's work circumstances and situation as far as their position and what company they work at, etc. So then they added in interest-based targeting based on people's interests in what they are doing on the LinkedIn platform. Now they've added even more interest-based. This part isn't as exciting for me though, because it's basically interest-based targeting based on their Bing search data, which, Bing doesn't have a ton of users. I'm not sure how many people use Bing. The only thing I was thinking was, okay, well, maybe a lot of people on their work computers, if they're using LinkedIn, and their work computers happen to make them use, Microsoft Edge instead of, say, allowing them to use Chrome or Firefox or some other browser, then maybe they're using Bing, because Bing is the default search engine for Edge. So maybe if they're at a work computer, and they're using LinkedIn. So that's kind of the only thing that made me a little optimistic, but, Bing search data, that's fine. It's fine, but there's not a ton of Bing users out there, so not sure how super great that is, but it's another feature. It's good to have. And then the other thing that they added that was major, and it's not anything unique, it's not new, but it's something that they need if they want to catch up to other ad platforms like Facebook and Google, and that is look-alike audiences. If you don't know what a look-alike audience is, it's basically if you already have, say, an audience of people, like for example, we do this all the time on Facebook. You have you have this group of people, you have a database of people who have already purchased your product, say. You know exactly who those Facebook users are. You can take that group and then tell Facebook, hey, make a lookalike audience of this. And obviously, just like it sounds, they're going to find people with very similar profiles, interests, behaviors, etc., demographics, whatever, to match that group that has been buying from you, because those people are also going to be very likely the type of person that would buy your products. So LinkedIn is adding that as well. Just another feature for LinkedIn's ad platform that they're really improving. I've been very impressed with LinkedIn's ad platform lately. So we'll see how they continue to improve. And Microsoft is doing a good job overall. That's why they're using Bing, by the way, because Microsoft owns LinkedIn and Bing. So they obviously can't have access to Google data, but at least they have access to Bing search data. But anyways, lookalike audiences. It's a big deal for LinkedIn ads if you are an advertiser on LinkedIn. It's just another great feature to have. Makes your life easier when trying to find new people out of your regular audience. All right, next up, let's talk about Amazon for a second. They are up to some interesting things. The first thing I wanted to talk about was they're trying to create a broadband global network with satellites. It's going to be over 3,200 satellites. It's called Project Kuiper. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. Kuiper. Keeper, I don't know. Kuiper is what they're calling it. But anyways, they're planning on using 3,200 satellites to create a complete broadband network, so the whole world has access to not just dial-up or some slow thing like they do in even some parts of the US, and definitely they don't even have internet in many parts of the world, so they want to give broadband speeds to the world. That sounds very expensive. I'm not sure how they plan to afford 3,200 satellites. I'm not sure what the price of satellites are these days. I know their price is going down quite a bit with lots of new innovations, but still 3,200 is a lot. Basically, they say it's going to take years. It's a big, audacious space project. This is the statement from Amazon that I'll read real quick. Project Kuiper, I'm going to call it Kuiper, I don't know how you exactly pronounce it, is a new initiative to launch a constellation of low Earth orbit satellites that will provide low latency, high speed broadband connectivity to unserved and underserved communities around the world. This is a long-term project that envisions serving tens of millions of people who lack basic access to broadband internet. We look forward to partnering on this initiative with companies that share a common vision. Shared this common vision. I was going to say, Amazon, this is very audacious. I know there are other companies going after this. I know that SpaceX, Elon Musk, is doing something of this sort. I'm not sure if it's this audacious as far as 3,200 satellites, but I don't know. I'm always very skeptical when I hear these things. We heard Google trying to do this with Google Loon with their balloons, and they've kind of shut that down for the most part. They're still doing some stuff with Project Loon, but it looks like it just didn't really work out for them. For years, we've been hearing Facebook is kind of doing the same thing, and I haven't really seen much progress from Facebook on that front. So I'm always kind of skeptical when I hear these big things. But maybe Amazon will be different. They certainly, I guess they could afford it. But yeah, I don't know exactly the whole cost. The costs aren't really explained here. But hey, if they're successful, it would be very valuable for Amazon to own the broadband network that millions and millions and millions of people use on a day-to-day basis. Because just think about all that juicy data that Amazon wants to get and capture from all of those people. They could probably put Amazon.com as their homepage by default and all types of stuff like that. So anyways, that's kind of an interesting, out of this world, so funny, thing that Amazon is going for. But anyways, back here on Earth, they are also apparently making their own version of the Apple AirPods. So they want to make a pair of AirPods, or they're not going to be called AirPods obviously, but they're going to make a pair of headphones that apparently there's some leaks that they look very similar and act very similar to the Apple AirPods, except they're going to have Alexa in ear versus obviously having Siri in your ear. We'll see how this goes, because obviously Amazon doesn't have a phone. Remember the Fire Phone? Does anybody remember the Fire Phone when they tried that a few years ago? How long ago was that? That was probably 4 or 5 years ago by now. That was a complete failure. I remember that. I never thought that would succeed. I thought that was a bad idea from the time I saw it. But anyways, did not do well. But the point is that they want to have Alexa in your ears at all times, right? They're doing very well on the smart speaker front. They have tons of Alexas in tons of homes, but the second you leave your home, you don't have an Alexa anymore. But if you have the Alexa headphones, then you can have Alexa with you in your ears on the go at all times, and further enable that full Alexa Amazon experience. I think it's a good idea. We'll see how well they're able to compete with Apple. I think they will do well on the non-Apple users front, possibly, but I'm not sure how well they will do at getting Apple users and AirPod users to switch over to their headphones instead. We'll have to see about that, because Apple users are very loyal and the AirPods are very, very good, and they obviously, because they're an Apple product, the integration is incredibly seamless, and there's lots of cool things and features like the battery pops up when you open the case, and just things like that are not going to be able to happen with the Amazon AirPods, whatever you want to call them, the Amazon headphones. So we'll see exactly how that works. I'm not 100% sure yet. Again, this was mostly kind of a leak, but we'll see. They clearly want to continue to grow the strength of the Alexa network. Okay, that's it for the general news this week. Now let's talk a little bit about social media and where we are, as I alluded to earlier. I just think we're in a weird place, because What made me start worrying was this week there was an Australian bill that got passed. If you didn't hear about it, obviously don't think a lot of people did because it was in Australia, but it was just a terrible, terrible idea, a terrible bill, because it basically it was in response to the Christchurch shooting that happened in New Zealand a few weeks ago. And basically during the shooting and after the shooting, there were, I believe, both live videos of it and then lots of videos being uploaded of it afterwards on different social media platforms. And those platforms were trying to delete them, but it's hard to just go and delete things. You don't want to just delete everything. There were like legitimate news stories and videos that didn't show anything, had a lot of it blurred out, and were just news things that got deleted too, kind of as a what do you call it, cannon fodder, I guess. But basically things that probably shouldn't have been deleted were deleted because they were trying to act so frantically to delete everything that needed to be. But anyways, the point was that there were videos on different platforms of the shooting, which the Australian government doesn't like, and a lot of people don't like. But it's not that easy to remove these videos that quickly, because again, these platforms have millions and millions and millions of pieces of content constantly being added. So what the Australian government decided to do is make it so that companies now, like Facebook or YouTube, now have to filter these videos before they go up. If they're supposed to somehow watch live stream videos, right? Because obviously there's live streams, and make sure that there's no bad content there. Basically, they want companies to go from reacting to being proactive, I guess, is kind of their stance. But it's just a terrible, terrible, terrible idea, because now all of these companies have to put a massive filter on anything and everything that gets uploaded. They're pretty much going to have to remove all live streaming in Australia now, because it's impossible to tell what's going to happen on a live stream. That's why it's called a live stream. But now, even worse, even when videos are uploaded, they're going to have to go through some sort of filter system to make sure that they're not going against the content rules before that video is actually allowed to go up, to go live. The resources and demands of this are nearly impossible unless you just go the extreme route of basically, if it's not like PG, it doesn't go up. I mean, I don't know what you do in this situation. I wouldn't be surprised if I saw a lot of companies, if we see a lot of companies just completely pull out of Australia and say, listen, we can't handle this. Both lawmakers and tech advisors very strongly opposed this bill, but they went through with it anyways. And I just think that this is one of the worst pieces of legislation I've seen in a while. But it worries me, because I don't know what's going to happen next. Because if that happens in Australia, which is, a major country, a major market, I don't know what could happen in the rest of the world. And, as someone on the marketing side, I see lots of the changes that Facebook's making in response to all of these allegations that have been happening over the past couple of years. Just recently, I saw that they put restrictions on for people who do lending ads for companies that do, offer mortgages or different credit offerings. Now they can't do demographics-based targeting. So before, they could target people by income and ethnicity, and I believe even like zip code where they live. And now they're not allowed to do any of those things because it could be discriminatory, which is fine, I guess, in that situation. For credit, you don't want credit to be discriminatory. But I don't know if stopping companies from advertising to who they want to advertise to is going to stop the discrimination. Because especially, say you're just a company who only offers mortgages that are on $1 million plus homes, right? That's all you do. You have this niche business that's all you do. You do high-end mortgages. Well, obviously, you're not going to want to target people who are buying a $300,000 home. They're just not in your market. It's nothing discriminatory, really. It's just in a negative way. It's just they're not your target audience. And so you kind of have this fine line, but Facebook and all these platforms are very quickly trying to react to both avoid certain legislation in some ways, but push forward certain legislation in other ways. And Mark Zuckerberg came out this week and discussed how regulation would be a good idea, how GDPR in Europe kind of worked. But, lots of people have pointed out that these big sweeping regulations very much help the big companies in the sense that, yes, it costs them more money and eats at their bottom line, and it's just an overall pain in the ass to have to deal with lots of new regulations. But because they're big, huge money-making machines, they can afford the lawyers, they can afford the extra new development costs that come with changing up the platform to comply with these regulations, while they know smaller upstarts do not have the massive team nor the capital to comply with everything. And so that's why these bigger companies are somewhat for more regulation. They don't want to be over-regulated, but they're for some regulation because it actually could end up helping them more than it hurts them. But the overall point is, I'm really not sure where things are headed in the general social media space. There was a leaked bill in the UK that could make social media sites much more of almost headed more towards a utility than being private companies. We'll see. It was kind of a leaked thing. It's nothing confirmed, nothing been voted on, anything like that. There's just lots going on. There's tons of attention about it, focused on it. It's the topic of conversation of so many media outlets, so many just people in general. Not to mention now the health things that are being discussed as far as people getting addicted and using it too much. And on that front, to me, that's more, I think that is overblown. I think, saying social media addiction, I'm not saying it's not addictive. Listen, I limit my social media a lot. I pretty much cut out Instagram completely as far as my personal usage. The only platform I really use is Twitter at this point. And, on the iPhone now, they have the screen time app where they let you limit your screen time. So I put it at 30 minutes. So, because it's the type of thing where, like any of these social platforms, you kind of start using it and then you get sucked in and all of a sudden you realize, oh my gosh, I've been using this for 45 minutes. I did not mean to do that. So I set it at 30 minutes for the day, so I don't use it for more than half an hour a day. But, social media can be very distracting and time consuming if you're not careful, but it just takes a little bit of discipline and making sure that you don't go overboard. It's no different than sugar. I love, sugary snacks and drinks and whatever, but, you got to have some self-control and not eat sugar all day, right? So I think on that front, it's a little overblown, but it's still another talking point that a lot of people have. I'm very fascinated to see where things go. I'm not sure how these regulations are going to work. I'm getting more and more confident at this point that there will be some sort of major regulation in the United States. Before I thought there might not be, but at this point I think it's almost inevitable. And not to get into politics here, but on the Democratic side, they're very much kind of looking at these big tech companies as major monopolies, so they definitely want to regulate them. And then on the right, there's been lots of accusations, and I guess there's evidence for it too, that, lots of these tech companies, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, they're based out of Silicon Valley, San Francisco. They're based out of there. So they have this, and most people there are kind of young liberals. I think that's proven, and they're has been, shown bias towards the right. So the tech companies have done a great job of angering both the left and the right as far as politicians go. So I think at this point, it's kind of, you're gonna win either way if you're a politician and you propose regulations on big tech companies. It just is, how far do those regulations go, and do we go all the way to them becoming utilities, which I don't think I agree with, or do we let them go completely free as long as no one's breaking the law? This also gets into free speech issues in the US. Other countries don't have free speech. They have, hate speech laws. It's very, very complicated. And I almost think that we might end up having, I think it might be difficult to have a global social media just because every country is going to have so many different laws and regulations that it's going to be difficult for people to even connect on the same network if the network is having to comply with different regulations on for different countries and different continents and etc. So I don't know. This is kind of me rambling, but I'm very curious. This Australia bill is what kind of worried me. I just don't want sweeping regulations like that are very not even short-sighted, but just unrealistic to think that you can just, because if you do that, you're just completely removing all free speech, all just openness of information. If these companies now are responsible, that's the problem. The companies are now responsible. They will get fined majorly. The executives could go to, I believe it's up to 3 years in prison if they basically allow bad content to go up on the platform, and then that bad content is then caught, basically, which is just, it's just a terrible idea, because now they're going to have to either, one, as I suspect, they're going to just pull out completely, or two, they're just going to put a massive filter on everything that gets uploaded, and if it's not basically PG completely, it's not getting uploaded. So I don't know. I don't know where things are headed. The biggest thing I fear is broad, sweeping, not very well thought through regulations, because I think that's a very high likelihood that could happen, especially in Europe. We've already seen some of that with GDPR. I think we will see more, and in the US, depending on how things go, I think we will see major regulation. I just don't know. I just very, very much hope it will not be as bad as the Australian regulation just was. Anyways, there's my little rant and ramble. I hope you made it through it. I would love to hear what everybody else thinks, because it's just a difficult thing to discuss. If you want to comment, we do have a commenting system, actually. You can go to mgredge.com and leave a comment there. There's no, that's another thing. Podcasts, this is a totally different topic. I've discussed this before. Can we add some type of commenting system to the podcast? Because that would be great if I could somehow interact with people in a comment way. You can do it in every platform except for podcasting. And you'd think in podcasting, where it's all about the conversation, you would want to have comments. Anyways, that's it for this week, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for listening to my little rant and ramble. Again, I'd love to hear what you guys think. You can also just email me, david@mgragency. I'd be glad to discuss. Maybe you have thoughts. I'd be glad to respond to them on the show too. If you do, david@mgragency.com. But yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for listening. Leave a positive review if you did enjoy. If you didn't enjoy, I guess you could leave a negative review. That wouldn't make me very happy, but, do what you gotta do, I guess. And share this with anyone that you think would enjoy as well. Anyways, guys, I will see you next week. Again, thank you for listening.